What's good, fam? Agent O here with another action figure review, and today I have the SH Figuarts Spider-Man Homecoming action figure. Now, I'm actually super excited to do this review because I was actually really anticipating this toy. Obviously, because I do enjoy this particular rendition of Spider-Man, another reboot, but I can forgive this one because it turned out to be okay. Anyway, this is the box. I did not opt for the special edition with the little diorama piece, the wall that you can do stuff with. I just wanted the figure. If I see it cheap somewhere, I'll get it. If not, no big loss. I could, with a decent printer and some foam core, I could put together my own diorama. It's that simple, but I'm just not that motivated to do it. So yeah, this is it. This is the box. Pretty graphics. Spider-Man swinging, woo! And let's get this open and get to the review, because that's what we're really here for. Fuck the box. And here's poor Peter Parker here in his Spider-Man glory. And if I haven't mentioned it before, I'll mention it now. Spider-Man's one of my all-time favorite superheroes, right up there with Black Panther. And this is a really spiffy figure, and I will show you all the reasons why right now. I really dig the proportioning and the body shape of this toy. He looks like a kid, unlike the Legends figure version where he looks kind of like an adult. He's like way too buff and way too thick. Spider-Man's thick. But yeah, this is way better. This beats the ever-living shit out of the Legends figure, but we should come to expect that by now, because these are, no matter what other people say, these are higher end action figures. I really dig the look of how they crammed all this detail onto the figure. I was a little skeptical at first when the advertisement production photos came out for this toy, and I was afraid that the mesh texture was going to be a bit overpowering, but now that I have it in hand and it's under my own lights and stuff, it's not that bad. It actually works. It didn't have the, maybe they did some Photoshop filters to it to make it look more appealing, and they bumped up the contrast too much or something, because it really looked it was really overpowering in those images. But having it in hand, it looks pretty nice, and it doesn't have the contrasty pop that it had in the production photos. I do also like the eyes. I was on the Swoosh, and I need to stop going on that site because I disagree with some of the stuff they say more and more every time I go on there. But I guess the guy who was reviewing the figure said that he didn't like the fact that Spider-Man's eyes were painted silver instead of white. I guess he wanted white, but look at the gradation and the gradient in those eyes. You wouldn't get that if it was white. If it was all white, it wouldn't look that. You wouldn't see the dimension, and you wouldn't see that the lenses are raised off of the black parts. It's all sculpted. It's just not all one piece and then they painted over it. You know, it actually shows all that, and you see the dimension in the eyeballs, or on the on the lenses, and you wouldn't get that if it was white. So I really like the fact that they painted it silver instead of just all white. When the light hits it just right, it's almost all the way white. But when it's not, and it's hitting it from an angle, you see dimension, and you see the curvature and everything. So I dig that. I don't have a problem with it. I also like the fact that they didn't paint the webbing aesthetics or accents. That's what I meant to say. Webbing accents on his costume. I like that they didn't paint them all black. they used a darker red, almost like a brownish red, and it looks good, especially since it's got a little bit of it's a little reflective, so it jumps out a bit more, but not so much that it's overpowering. Everything kind of works together with this figure. Even the use of the red and blue, it's still a vibrant red and blue, but it is darker than I guess what was in the movie. The costume seemed to be a lot brighter, but I don't mind this dark. I don't mind the darker blue and the darker red. That was the other thing that the reviewer on the Fwoosh brought up, because I guess for him, brighter colors means happy, and I think a lot of people are trained that way, and I don't agree with it. You know, it's like people who say they can only have fun on a sunny day. Well, you know, I can think of a lot of fun things to do on a cloudy or rainy day. But you know, that's me. It's all in your head. And he even admitted it, but for some reason he had to point it out in his review. And you know, at least say it's a nitpick. Don't say this is something that takes away from the figure, because that's a nitpick. That's not something that detracts from this figure at all. All the seams and stuff on this figure are using a reflective paint, and there's no slop whatsoever, no bleed or anything across this entire figure. I don't know how they do that, but they do it well, and I like it. I like it a lot. You got the little Spidey symbol on the chest. That came out pretty nicely. Spidey symbol on the back. Looks good. All the black accent pieces. They didn't even use a dark black on these. It's more of a blackish gray or grayish black. I don't know, but they didn't totally go black with it, and that actually works nicely as well. I like the overall appearance of this figure. As far as I can tell, it looks screen accurate to how he looked in the film. Now, I've said that before, and I was wrong. Like, I said that about the Deadshot figure that Figuarts did, and I was totally off because there was some writing on the collar and on his gun, his rifle, that I forgot about when I saw the movie, because I only watched that terrible movie once, and they didn't put it on the figure, even though it's on the Mafex version, but it's not on the Figuarts version. So I was wrong. That figure was not movie accurate. But as far as I can tell, this is. If it isn't, somebody please point out the differences, because I don't see them, and I'd be glad to know. I mean, there's even texture and detail on the feet. So I mean, head to toe, it's all design. You know, it's all been put on this figure from what I can tell. Now, that's going to pretty much do it for the presentation aspect of this figure. I dig it. I like it a lot. And he's going to be in proportion to all your other MCU Figuart toys, obviously. And I'm pretty sure he would fit in with the Marvel Legends ones as well. I'll at some point do pictures, but I'm not in any rush because I don't really give a fuck about Legends anymore. I cherry pick the ones I want, and that's it. I'm not gung-ho like I used to be for those. There's just way better figures out there, like this guy, way better figure. So anyway, I want to move on to the articulation. As usual, we're going to start from the top, work our way down. We've got the head articulation. Now, because of the eye-changing gimmick, there isn't a whole lot of movement just with the head attached to the ball with a ball joint. That's partially due to the sculpt and, like I said before, the head swap gimmick. The eye swap gimmick also impedes some of the articulation. So he can't really look that high up. He can't really look that far down just by moving the head. Now, that's where the neck comes into play. The neck is connected to the upper torso through a ball joint, so you can look further down using the neck, and you can look way higher up using the neck. And I also like the fact that they filled in the neckline with the actual base of the neck, so that there's not a whole lot of gappage when you go up too far. this is a nice touch. I feel like they're listening. I feel like Figuarts is listening to a lot of the reviewers that complain about gappage in their figures. Personally, like I said, I don't care. If you hate gappage on a figure that's built for posability, don't buy these figures. Buy Real Action Heroes or Hot Toys figures, because apparently these aren't for you. And you need to stop bitching and moaning about it, because I'm tired of hearing it. It's a moot point at this point. You're beating a dead horse. Stop it. Anyway, moving on to the upper torso and the shoulders. He's got butterfly joints. Do my best Bruce Lee, I didn't skip lat day pose with Spider-Man. You can see they pop out pretty nicely and pretty far. You can see how far they come out. And I also dig the fact that they always sculpt, and they make sure that there's all the detail is on these parts as well, so it blends with the figure. It blends with the rest of the figure quite nicely. And there is no bicep swivel. They decided not to break the mold of the sculpt of the arm. So once again, the bicep swivel is hidden on the inside by a peg or whatever. Also forgot to mention the butterfly joints must be on some kind of ball peg or something, because they rotate as well. As you can see, he's got rotation, and he also has rotation in the bicep, or I'm sorry, deltoid. And when you pull the butterfly joint out, you can rotate his arm like so. He can't really pull up because it hits the shoulders, but if you know, so he doesn't go up that high, but you get enough rotation all the other ways that you can kind of make up for it. You know, you're not gonna be able. There's not a web swinging pose that you're not gonna be able to get him into. So, like I said, a bicep swivel would have done wonders for this figure. It's something I personally like to see. I understand why they didn't do it, but that's a preference of mine, is a bicep swivel. Other people might be okay with not having one, but I always prefer the bicep swivel. So I'm going to stop saying bicep swivel because I've said it so many times already. I'm going to get to this double jointed elbow. Since the sculpt is what it is, there's nothing impeding the bending of the elbow, so you get a way more than 90 degrees bend on that guy. Ball peg hands fit on a ball peg, so you can get the limp wrist action, and you can get full rotation. The web shooters themselves don't get in the way of the hand articulation, and they rotate all the way around, so you can line up the hands and the web shooters for your whippy poses, which is always a plus. His upper chest is a diaphragm joint. You can get a little bit of side-to-side action, but it's mostly, this is how far back, like he doesn't go back that far because of the sculpt. The sculpt itself on the back kind of gets in the way. So this is as far back as he can go, but he does go forward quite a bit without the use of the lower half portion of the torso. Once you put the lower half portion of the torso into play, he bends over a lot more, just a bit more, and he bends back a bit more as well. This lower torso helps a lot. And also, once again, Figuarts is paying attention, because you would have a very huge gap back here where all the little bits and pieces would be exposed on the inside, but they sculpted the belt to have a little extra back piece, and that helps a lot with covering all this up. So they're listening to you guys bitching and moaning. They're listening, and it works for the most part. I also do like the fact that the belt does float around and it moves, and it's so you can get it out of the way of the leg poses, because this is one of the I think this is a very posable Spider-Man figure, especially I'm kind of blown away and just really impressed with what they did with the hips. It's that standard double swivel articulation and scheme that they're using right now, that they've used on like Bruce Lee, on the Bruce Lee figures. They did it on the Chun-Li figure, probably all of the not Body Coon, the fighting body figures, anything that's used that fighting body. So you have the swivel going out, as you can see under here, you have it going out, and you have it going forward. But the kicker with this figure is that they sculpted the glutes, and I'm sure they probably use this on other figures. I just can't think of them right at this point. But this is the first time I'm seeing it on the Figuarts. But the glutes rotate all on their own as well. You know, so they get out of the way so you can get his legs up really, really far because the glutes rotate down. And I mean, you can adjust them as needed so that it doesn't look too weird, and you can cover up some of the openings. But I think that's just a really nice touch because it's such a simple solution, and it helps so much. Also wanted to point out his split. It's not a full 180, but this is not gonna harm. This is not gonna prevent you from getting into any poses that Spider-Man usually gets into with his funky, super flexible poses that he does. But once again, I'm just really impressed with just how simple having a rotating butt on your figure goes a long way for getting your stuff into poses like this. This beats the pants out of the Amazing Yamaguchi Spider-Gwen figure just with this, because this makes it so much easier to pose than the Spider-Gwen figure is. And the Spider-Gwen figure is not hard to pose, but this is just way more convenient, and it feels more I want to say more intuitive, or just more there's less thought that has to be put in to getting the limbs where you want them to be on this figure because of how simple this articulation scheme is. So I'm really impressed with that, and because it does that, I'm guessing that's why you have the exposed thigh swivel. But I'm fine with it because the way they cut it, it doesn't jump out too much. You know, you can kind of see it. The illusion is a little broken when you start to rotate it, but that's fine. Like, that's not enough for me to be like, oh my god, this figure is terrible because of that. So that's there. Take it for what you will. If it's really that big of a problem for you, then I don't know what to tell you. But I don't have a problem with it. I think it could have been way worse. It could have had the potential to be worse. But he does have double jointed knees, and you get a nice bend there. His feet do have the ankle rockage, like so. You can go up and down. You can go point them out that far. You can pull them in that far. And he does have the toe point, for those of you that love toe point, like myself. All in all, just a really nice posable figure. You know, I really enjoy this guy. You know, I have the Figma Amazing Spider-Man figure, and even though it's just as posable, you know, the leg posing doesn't look as good as it does on this guy. And I like this figure. I don't really have a huge problem with it. I like this guy, but it's just not as well thought out and engineered as this guy. But then again, that figure came out several years ago. This one just came out, so there's been a lot of evolution in terms of engineering that has gone on since then, and this is, I guess, the fruits of that. So I really do love the posability of this guy just because of what's going on down here. I love convenience and complexity. wrapped up in a nice simple package, and this figure has that with the leg articulation. So I'm going to move him off. Actually, before I move him off to the side, I want to talk about the eye changing gimmick. I almost forgot. Now, to do that, to change the eyeballs out of the Spider-Man's head, you pop his head off. It sits on this post that's on a ball joint, and you have this slotted peg hole here, and on the inside of the head, if I can shine a little light, just give me the light. You can see the slotted peg on the inside. In post, I'll probably zoom in on it. Hopefully, it's picking up on my camera. But yeah, you can see it in there. You can also see where the eyes, where the peg pieces of the eyes are poking through the rest of the head. And the Spider-Man figure, similar to the Amazing Yamaguchi Deadpool figure, comes with this little tool piece. Kind of looks like a little shank, a prison shank. And you just dig in there, and you just push the eyeballs out. You can see the eyeballs popping out, and you can just reach in there and pull it out that way. I would suggest you use the tool to get the eyes out, just because you don't want to be digging your fingernails up into the Spider-Man eye lens and then risk scratching the paint job or scratching the plastic. And you know, that's what it looks like without it, and it's just really easy to peg back in. It's easier when you don't have a camera in front of your hands getting in the way of what you're trying to do. Whoops, and I dropped the head. But yeah, it's that simple, quick and dirty, and you just pop the head back on and you're back in business. So there's that as one of the accessories. He also comes with his backpack, the backpack that he's always losing in the movie. This is a nice little thing too. It's nothing super duper special to write home about. It's pretty simple. On the back here, we have the Spider-Man symbol on his back. You can pop out this little peg cover. I cut my nails, so now I can't do it, of course.
Wow, this is going to be really hard. I guess I should have waited till after the review to cut my fingernails. Holy shit, I really can't do this.
Hold on, I got like a little screwdriver I'll have to use. Okay, I'm going to use this little screwdriver to get in there. And that just pops out. Be very careful because I almost lost this to the carpet monster, i.e. my floor. So yeah, there's the peg hole. Here's the here's where the peg will go into the hole, and all you gotta do is this strap does not come off. This one does. Pegs in with that really long thin red peg. So you just slide through the one hoop, peg it into his back, and then you just plug it in like so. And there you go. And it holds in pretty nicely. It's not flopping around on his back because of that peg in the back. Really nice, easy peasy. Works oh so well. Nice little accessory. He also comes with this extra peg hole piece that plugs into his back like so. And this is for if you have a Figuarts stand. This is for my Kamen Rider Ryuki figure stand. But this peg hole right here pegs back into here, and it's a really good tight fit. So I'm not even going to push it all the way in because it's going to pull this piece out. But I lost a screw to this, and the screw and the washer, I mean the screw and the nut. So I was like, holy crap, what am I going to use instead of using the Figuarts stand? So I pulled out my Figma stand, and the Figma stand works just as well. So you've got options, and if you know me, I like options. So the Figma stand pops in there really nicely as well. Really nice tight fit. So that's always, like I said, I love options, and this is an option. Even if you have the other attachment piece, the angled Figma piece, you can plug that in, and that plugs into the back as well. So you can use a Figma, or you can use a Figuart stand. For those of you that do collect Figmas, you're not left out in the cold. And and like I said, it's an option, and I like options. So I'm gonna put that up there for now and stick this back on. Like so. He's back on. I do need to mention the eyes that he does come with. You know, obviously he has the fully open eyes that I've got in the head right now, and he also comes with the closed eyes, almost all the way closed, the squinty eyes, and then the halfway closed eyes. So he comes with 3 sets of eyes. Don't need much more than that. And he also comes with webbing effect accessories. He comes with the long strand webbing for the web line for web swinging poses, and it's just plastic. It's a softer, bendable plastic, clear. There's no paint or anything, nothing lightly dry brushed or anything on it, and it works. Because it's sculpted so nicely, the light plays off of it really well, so you don't need paint. My camera's having a little bit of trouble picking it up because it's clear translucent plastic, but yeah, you've got that. And he also comes with 2 types of webbing that's supposed to be shot out of his web shooters. As soon as I find that second piece, I can show it to you. So, and they're 2 different sizes. This is the long one, and this is the short one. And you know, you've got the little knob piece at the end that plugs on top of the ball peg. So you just pop his hand off, put this on top, take the hand, put it on top of, in between, and it's held in place. And I mean, you can line up the web shooters and all that, so everything looks consistent. You can thwip away, thwip to your heart's desire. It's that simple and easy and fun. It's pretty much like a lot of the other Spider-Man figures that are out there. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because it didn't need to be fixed. So you have that as well. Just put this back on here. Then he also comes with a bunch of hands. He comes with 7 sets of hands total, which is, if you count the closed fist hands, that's 7. But these are all the hands that are not closed fists. You have your relaxed posed hands, you have your open splayed hands, you have your thwipping hands, you have your radical dude, hey babe call me hands. These are hands specifically for holding the cell phone accessory, and these are hands for specifically holding the web line effect piece. So they did not skimp this time, because Figuarts has been skimping lately on accessories and extra hands. You know, Black Panther figure, I'm looking at you, because that needed the clawed hands. But they have not been skimping on that. This is the cell phone piece, and my battery's gonna probably die soon. That's just fantastic. So I'm gonna move through this quickly. That's the cell phone piece. There's the hand specifically for holding it. Both hands work really well for holding the cell phone. Do this in camera as quickly as possible because I got to wrap this up because my battery will die. And holds it pretty nicely. This is like way better than the Amazing Yamaguchi Spider-Gwen hand that's supposed to hold the phone. For some reason I just couldn't get it to work, but this is actually easy, and you can see right there in the corner where it where the phone fits into the palm of the thumb. That's how the phone sets in there, and it's held quite nicely. And that is pretty much going to do it. So I mean that's a good it's a good accessory. Blah blah blah. It's a cell phone. It's a cell phone piece. Doesn't do anything else than look like a cell phone. So yeah, that's it. Overall, I really like this figure. Really like the changes to the articulation that they made to make it easier to do the Spider-Man poses that you all seen in the comics and in the movies and stuff. So this is definitely one of my favorite Spider-Man figures ever, just because of that, and because of, you know, they knocked it out of the park this time with this figure. Really happy with this purchase. I would definitely recommend you buy it before it disappears from the retail market, and you have to pay aftermarket prices for it because Evil Bay is a bastard, and people will take your money. They will take your wallet and do foul things to it, because that's how people are on Evil Bay. So that is going to do it for this action figure review. Definitely recommend you buy this figure, but leave any kind of comments, any kind of constructive criticism, any questions, you know, anything that your heart desires. Leave it in the comments below. If you liked my content, get at me on my Facebook page. I'll post a link in the description for my Agent Omega Facebook page. You know, you can like and subscribe on my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with all the different reviews and content I'll be putting up on my channel. And that is going to pretty much do it. So until the next video, I am Agent O, and I'm out. Peace.